Greetings, classmates and teacher. I am Roman Garcia, and I decided to share my activity 1 through this video. I hope you enjoy it. I'm going to introduce myself first, and again, I'm Roman Garcia. I am Mexican. I've been working as an English teacher for almost 5 years, and I've been in contact with the language since I was a kid. Thanks to my parents that they decided to prioritize their education, and since a very young age I had the opportunity to study in private schools, bilingual, most of them, and then some extra courses of English, which I am very grateful for. And talking about this, I have never been in the USA or never traveled in a foreign country yet. And all my experience with the language has been here in Mexico, in private institutions, like I mentioned before, and in some particular moments. What I can recall of how my experience studying the language was is that at a very young age, when I was in elementary school and in my early ages of teenager, I recall my teachers imparting their lessons in a more relaxing environment. It almost felt like we were playing games. We were singing songs, and we were making dynamic activities like crafts and working as a group. It also felt like competitions. It really felt very, very good because I understand that teaching a kid involves many factors as visuals, getting their attentions through games, incentives, singing songs, because it's a formative experience, and I was getting to know the language and also many other concepts of education. When I finished elementary and then I moved on to high school or junior high and then college, I realized that my experience with the language was a little bit different than I used to be at an early stage, and that is because I grew up and my level of maturity also grew up, and then my teachers were focusing more on grammar, were focusing more on order, on functions, on trying to transmit the target language in a very conscious way, involving structures, involving grammar rules, involving language patterns, differences, similarities, and it was a different methodology, which I also am very grateful for because it helped me realize what I'm about to say according to some differences and we can say struggles with Spanish, my L1, and English, my L2. I could realize many things that when I was a kid I wasn't really able to recognize them, and I'm going to share some of them in this time. In English, we need always to mention or include in active voice the subject, always at the beginning. And in Spanish, on the other hand, this is something that we can omit, that we are not really obligated to included for in first place. This caused at the beginning some problems because this is an L1 interference, and I tend to omit the subject in English because of Spanish, and in this practice that we are allowed to do in my L1, yet it is considered a mistake in English. This type of difference, I categorize it according to what we have seen in class as the category 2, LA equals LB, which means that language A, which in this case is Spanish, has a feature X that resembles an X in language B to some extent. Considering this a slightly difference, making this a language correspondency in category 2. Also, I would like to mention that in terms of language order, for instance, in English, I studied that the adjective order needs to be placed before the noun. For example, the black car, Black Panther, I have my white pencil, or the white mouse. And in Spanish, it's the opposite. We tend to include the descriptions after the noun. So this is also a slight difference from languages, but it's also something that at the beginning it was kind of difficult for me because I used to do as my L1, and of course it is not considered right in English. So this type of error, or not error, this type of difference, I also categorize it in number 2, where the function and the order is different from both languages, but slightly, right? LA has a feature that resembles and in X in language B, this is some extent. Something that I also really struggled this one is the terms of phrasal verbs. This type of language difference or correspondency, I assume it is from category 3, which is LA X different than LB. In other form, language A has a feature X which B lacks, in this case Spanish lacks, or which can be rendered only in terms of B's, which operates according to different principles. To be said, or to sum up, phrasal verbs in English was totally new for me because I didn't have it at all in Spanish. It was never used. It is something that the language doesn't have. And in terms of phrasal verbs, expressing new ideas, expressing very complex thoughts or insights in the English language, which is also very common, this type of difference made a hard impact on me because I had a really hard time figuring out functions, how to join the preposition with a verb, and knowing that when a verb is including a preposition, the meaning could change grammatically or totally in 360 degrees. It was quite a challenge to me, but yet, like bit by bit, I tended to become a little bit better, which I'm still learning many phrasal verbs, and I know this is a huge difference. Again, in category 3. Other type of difference that I struggled with at the beginning was the use of the present continuous. Even though grammatically they are very similar, the subject, the verb to be, the verb in gerund, and the complement in Spanish is the same, yet the function is a little bit different. And I'm not saying the principal function, things happening at the moment, because it is alike. I'm talking about the extra or the second function of the present continuous in English that we don't have it in Spanish. And I'm talking about use the present continuous to talk or to refer to future plans or things that you already organized that you are going to do in the future. For example, I'm meeting my friends at the cinema. I'm watching a movie at Cinepolis at 9. This type of particular function is not presented in Spanish in my L1. Therefore, at the beginning it was a little different because I understood it literally, and in some cases this is future. So in terms of function, even though grammatically are the same, I categorize this difference in number 2, where the LA is slightly different than LB, okay, in terms of function. To end my video, I would like to mention the last one that I recognized at a very young age, yet now here in class I could recognize the type of difference. We are aware that in terms of gender in Spanish, most nouns are recognized or have this particular differentiation from male and female. And in English, this doesn't happen at all. The gender tends to be more universal. And I'm not saying that there are no words to specify gender. There are some nouns, there are some words, for example, brother, sister, waiter, waitress, those specific words that can identify the gender, yet it is not from all words, or is not very common. Rather than in Spanish, it is for every noun there is a differentiation, there is a suffix in terms of finishing the noun with a or with o or with e, right? Like maestro, maestra, perro, perra, gato, gata, administrador, administradora. So there is always a gender differentiation in Spanish, and in English this is something that rarely happens. And there is also a more aggressive differentiation in English, because it's not just adding one letter, it's adding 2, 3, or even other concept for this type of purposes. So in this difference, I categorize it as number 3. Yes, because it is not a slight difference, it is a huge one. So for this purpose, and for gender, right, I place this correspondence in category 3. And I really hope you enjoyed my video, my activity, and have a wonderful week.